start this hour with the governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, newly elected governor. Governor, thanks for being with us today. We appreciate your time. I will start with what we were just discussing.
It's good to be with you. By the way, No, God, I was just going to say, I appreciate that you picked the Birds to win. So that's good. That's a good start to the interview there.
That's where I was going with you. I mean, the Eagles, I'm a Giants fan. I'm from New Jersey, right across the border from where you are. But, man, you put one on us last Sunday. You confident they got it in them again this weekend?
Yeah, without question. Look, the 49ers are a good team, a really good team. But I think Purdy, man, he has not faced Hassan Reddick and the kind of defense that we're going to bring at him, the pressure we're going to bring at him. I'll take Jalen Hurts over Purdy, 7 days a week and twice on Sunday. Birds are going to win by at least a touchdown.
At least a touchdown. All right, you heard it here. Yeah, Hurts might be the MVP of the league. We'll see. Let's talk about some of your state business. Yeah. You ran an impressive campaign to win to become the governor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Now that you're sitting in that big chair, what have been some of your first initiatives? What have you gotten done so far?
Look, first off, I'm just incredibly humbled by the opportunity that millions of Pennsylvanians gave me to serve as their governor. And, Willie, when I went in the office the first day, it's an office steeped in history. They have portraits of all the governors who have served. I'm the 48th, up on the wall. And you look up and you've got William Penn staring down at you from the front. And you've got Ben Franklin on the side looking at you, and you realize, you're just part of this link in history where your job is to try and make this place a little bit better off than the way you found it. And so now that responsibility falls to me. And I believe as governor, we need to create real freedom and real opportunity for all Pennsylvanians. That's why in my first executive order on day one, I signed an executive order doing away with the college degree requirement for thousands of state government jobs, actually 65,000 to be exact, 92% of our jobs, because I fundamentally believe every Pennsylvanian should have the freedom to chart their own course and have a real opportunity to succeed here in the Commonwealth. And I think our government should be an example of that, giving everybody the opportunity. If they can push those doors of opportunity open, then we're going to let them walk through and have productive lives here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Amen to that. That sounds like a good idea, and putting more of an emphasis on work experience than education experience at that college level. You also made an interesting move, Governor, that caught a lot of people's attention, naming the Secretary of the Commonwealth, Al Schmidt. He, people may remember, ran the elections in Philadelphia. He's a Republican, kind of stood in the door as Philadelphia's electoral process was attacked by Donald Trump, was attacked by the man you ran against to become governor. Why was that a significant decision and an important choice for you?
I made a commitment during the campaign that my first cabinet appointment would be a pro-democracy Secretary of State. This isn't about Democrats and Republicans. This is about people who value our freedom, who cherish our Constitution, who are willing to do the hard work necessary to defend our democracy. Al Schmidt, who led our election efforts in Philadelphia as the former commissioner there, demonstrated that commitment to democracy. In fact, he was given a medal to recognize that fact by President Biden just a few weeks ago. This isn't about partisanship. This is actually about a moment of bipartisan commitment to democracy. And we need more of that in our system, more times where Democrats and Republicans can come together to actually get things done. And I'm not sure there's anything more important than protecting our fundamental freedoms and our democracy. And Al's the exact right guy to lead that effort for me.
Governor Shapiro, good morning. Jonathan Lemire, a sad, common topic of discussion this week has been gun violence. There's been a number of mass shootings, the two in California most notably. Pennsylvania, of course, no stranger to acts like that as well. But it's also, of course, a proud hunting state. Talk to us about the situation with guns and public safety and how you balance the two in your Commonwealth.
Well, first off, this level of violence and the number of mass shootings we're seeing from California all across this country to Pennsylvania, of course, it's absolutely unacceptable. And it doesn't have to be this way. People have a right to both be safe and feel safe in their communities. So part of this has to be hiring more law enforcement to keep our communities safe. But it also has to be treating the underlying causes of violence, the underlying reasons why people are picking up guns in the first place. We need to make sure that there's a real effort on education and prevention. We also need to keep guns out of the hands of those who shouldn't have them, criminals and others. We are a proud hunting state, as you said. We've got a long history and heritage of responsible gun ownership. But I'll tell you what, every responsible gun owner I talk to also agrees with me that we got to keep guns out of the hands of criminals. So we need uniform background checks. We need to adopt red flag laws in Pennsylvania. I worked hard as Attorney General to close the ghost gun loophole, which is really becoming the weapon of choice for criminals here in the Commonwealth. We need to expand that and make sure we keep guns away from those who would use them to do harm for others. We can balance this, and I think Pennsylvania is a great example of that, where we can balance the rights of hunters and this great heritage and history we have, also with the right to both be safe in our communities when we walk down the streets or when we send our children to schools.
Governor, as you know, this is International Holocaust Remembrance Day, and we've been reflecting this morning on the genocide there and how we as a society can ensure it never happens again. The AP called your election a, quote, high note amid a surge of anti-Semitism, and you spoke about a Jewish heritage on the campaign trail across Pennsylvania, the state that's saw the nation's deadliest instance of anti-Semitism in the 2018 Tree of Life synagogue attack in Pittsburgh, which claimed 11 lives, and just wondering what your thoughts are today.
Well, first off, I want to commend Joe and you and the whole team at Morning Joe for shining a light on what happened in Auschwitz. We must never forget. And the fact that you're speaking about it and putting it on your show makes sure others get educated. You know, when I was sworn in 9 days ago, 10 days ago now, I was sworn in on a stack of Bibles. One was our family Bible. The other was a Bible carried by a U.S. serviceman from Pennsylvania who liberated the death camps, who defeated fascism, who defeated the Nazis in World War II. He carried this Bible with him. He earned a Purple Heart in the process. The second Bible I carried with me, or I was sworn in on, was a Bible that was at the Tree of Life synagogue on that fateful day when 11 were murdered while they worshiped. Here in Pennsylvania, that occurred, the deadliest act of anti-Semitism in our nation's history. Here in Pennsylvania, a place that was founded on religious tolerance by William Penn, where he invited people from all different walks of life, all faiths, to come and live and work and worship here in Pennsylvania. And so to have that deadly act of anti-Semitism in this place of religious tolerance certainly is a dark moment in our history. Yet, just 4 years later, as a proud American of Jewish faith, I was elected by a record number of Pennsylvanians, Republicans, Democrats, and independents, to lead this Commonwealth forward, which shows that when we understand our history, Pennsylvanians can indeed find light in the midst of darkness, can indeed move forward. And so the fact that you are helping educate the public about what happened in the Holocaust, the fact that we can learn those lessons in the past, the fact that we can make the kind of progress that we're making here in Pennsylvania shows that this is a great country with great hope and great promise if we understand our history and if we chart a more tolerant course for our future.
Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, thank you very much for being on the show this morning. We appreciate it.